Despite the furor from the mainstream media, it's important to remember that there's more to the economy than just tariffs and the stock market. We now have inflation numbers for the month of March, and things are finally headed in the right direction. But most importantly, CPI, or Consumer Price Index, has finally dropped. That is a specific measurement of inflation that tracks everyday spending for consumers like you and I. But see if you can spot how CNN played funny with this announcement.
Consumer prices month over month. So this was actually a drop of 0.1%, negative 0.1%. That's the first time we've seen that since COVID. Year over year, the annual inflation rate was at 2.4%. This was also better than expected and a 6-month low, moving in the right direction. As far as why this happened, there's a few drivers. One thing that really played a role here, as you can see the trend here, the inflation rate dipping a little bit. One of the drivers was energy. The fact that gasoline prices did not move up like they usually do in the month of March, that really helped the inflation.
This 0.1% drop in CPI is actually a really big deal. I know 0.1% doesn't feel like a big number, but it's the first time in 5 years, the first time since COVID, that everyday prices, such as our groceries, have actually come down. So ever since President Trump was inaugurated, the inflation rate has been dropping, but prices have still been going up. Now, some of you are probably wondering, Daniel, if the inflation rate is coming down, shouldn't prices also be coming down? Unfortunately, it's not that simple. So the easiest way to explain this is if you look at the right-hand side of the screen, what you'll see is the 2.4 annual inflation rate for March. So what that means is last month, March 2025, prices were up 2.4% compared to March 2024. So prices are still up. However, when the inflation rate is falling, what that means is the rate at which prices are going up is actually slowing down. That doesn't mean that prices have come down. It just means prices aren't growing as fast. So in February, the inflation rate year over year was actually 2.8%. So we went from February inflation 2.8 to March 2.4. And if we go backwards even more, January 2025, Joe Biden's last month in office, the inflation rate was 3%. So prices in January were 3% higher compared to January 2024. So we went from January 3% inflation rate, February 2.8 inflation rate, and last month 2.4. So inflation rate is slowing down, but again, that's just referring to how quickly or how slowly our price is going up. And that's why CPI is such a big deal. The fact that the cost for our groceries and everyday needs has actually decreased while inflation is still going up is a great thing for all of us. But the way CNN displays this on the screen, doesn't it look like both of these are positive numbers? Like, oh, CPI has also gone up 0.1%. It's not until the host says something that you realize that CPI has actually dropped.
Prices month over month. So this was actually a drop of 0.1%, negative 0.1%. That's the first time we've seen.
And it's not a color code, by the way. So I went back and actually pulled. So they, in their previous segments, they always do blue on the left and orange on the right. So keep that in mind. But you'll notice there's no plus sign, there's no arrow sign. Well, how did they report this in February?
Finally, we have some good news on the economy and really the number one issue for many Americans, the cost of living. So we just learned that consumer prices in February increased by 2.8%.
So there you go. You heard him talk about February. And you'll notice, like I mentioned, on the left is blue, on the right is orange, but the arrows are pointing up. It's almost as if they're minimizing this month the drop in CPI. Isn't that funny? And I know some of you sometimes think, Daniel, you're just overreacting. Well, I went over all of the previous months, and I went back all the way to February 2023, so over 2 years worth. And the graphic was a little different, but even then, they included a plus sign and a minus sign for all of these. Isn't it funny that when CPI comes down under Trump, there's no plus sign, there's no minus sign, it's just it's going to be the host's verbal saying. I know that seems like a small deal, but I think that that's indicative of the biases, whether it's intentional or whether it's just implicit at how they work at CNN. And let's not forget, CNN is off and on in the background, whether you're at the gym or at the airport. They'll have it on the screens, usually with the sound off, but that visual is so powerful. And so I just wanted to point that out, that they removed the plus and minus signs or the arrows pointing up, pointing down. But we should all be celebrating that for the first time in 5 years, actual prices for people like you and I have come down. I think that's a great thing. But it's not just that. So CNBC reports that, yes, inflation rate has eased to 2.4%, but the core is at a 4-year low. So this is excluding food and energy. That is really good news. It's not just that. Jobs were actually up in March. So in the last month, we added 228,000 jobs. This is 100,000 jobs more than was predicted. But most importantly, most of this job growth was in the private market, private employers. So that grew by 209,000. A lot of times, those job numbers are inflated or cushioned by federal job hires or state job hires, local state jobs. And so the fact that so much of that is in the private market, I think is great news and has me really excited. Last but not least, though, gas prices are down all across the nation, with the exception of California, where gas is now averaging $5 per gallon. Meanwhile, as you see there in the headline, the average has plummeted. Governor Gavin Newsom, though, of course, is blaming the oil companies. He's saying it's because of price gouging, and they're targeting California drivers, which, of course, is insane. Now, it'll be interesting to see. We're basically 1 week into President Trump's tariffs, and we'll see if these economic indicators continue. Next month, we'll find out what April's numbers are, and hopefully they still continue in the right direction. But, it's impossible. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm not a psychic. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there's some volatility in there, but this is great news. What a way to kick off your term. Now, yesterday, CNN held a town hall. Anderson Cooper was moderating and Bernie Sanders was there. So a woman had a question and Anderson Cooper referred to her as her, and she was not having it. She corrected him on her pronouns. But pay attention to Bernie Sanders' face, because he's almost like, I only see one of you. Is there more than one?
Paul, we're back with Senator Bernie Sanders. I want to introduce Grace Thomas. She's a local civil rights attorney. She's a Democrat. Grace?
They, them pronouns, actually. Thank you.
Oh.
Good evening, Senator Sanders. Polling and turnout data indicate that men of all racial demographics are turning away from the Democratic Party. But of course,
I know he's listening, like leaning in to listen closer, maybe read her lips. I don't know. But it's just funny because she says, actually, it's they, them pronouns. And he leans in as if like, there's more than one of you? Like, really, that's what I saw visually from this. I just thought that was funny. But her question goes on to ask what the Democrat Party can do to get men back. She basically acknowledges the problem that Democrats have with men. And it's like, you are part of the problem. This woke ideology, this gender nonsense is part of the reason why men are just fleeing the Democrats and don't want anything to do with you. Like, you could make the best case you can on healthcare or the economy, but if you're just crazy on common sense things, why are people like me, why are young men gonna listen to you? It makes absolutely no sense at all. So just, come on, can you have a little self-awareness there? Now, I would like to acknowledge today's members of the Governor's Club: Greg Anderson, Alexandra Silveira, and Chase Your Dreams Listen to You. Thank you so much. Governor's Club are people who have given super thanks or tipped the channel. I really appreciate that. It really makes videos like this possible. So thank you for your support, and I'm glad you enjoy. Last but not least, now that Joe Biden is well in the rearview mirror, the media is finally comfortable admitting what we all knew all along, right? That Joe Biden was in cognitive decline. He was impaired and just unable to do the job. Clearly, we all saw it. And if that wasn't true, the Democrats wouldn't have forced him out after that disastrous debate. Well, Chuck Todd made some interesting revelations during his appearance on Piers Morgan.
I sit here and I'll defend a little bit of this, in that I would argue the reason people were able to come to their own conclusion on Joe Biden is because of the media coverage. Look, we were subtle. He's using the back staircase. He's not using the front staircase. Hey, he's not doing any interviews. So there was this reluctance to draw the conclusion to say, is he not doing this? And that I agree with. That was held back a lot. I would argue it was also held back a lot back in the late 80s when it was clear Ronald Reagan wasn't necessarily running everything in the White House. Whether you want to call it decorum, whatever you want to call it, look, there were plenty of members of the media. I remember David Ignatius in the Washington Post, plenty of individual people questioning whether he should run. I certainly questioned whether he should run. You didn't understand, there were some of that. But I understand the argument about the collective. on that front. The only thing I can chalk it up to is this, whatever you want to call it, this fear that some members of the media had sometimes that they would be perceived as helping Trump if they somehow diminished Biden, right? That it was some sort of zero-sum game. And I think this has been the fundamental mistake that many members of the traditional press have done.
So we have to lie because we can't risk even helping President Trump a little bit. Well, message for the mainstream media. In doing so, you endangered the entire nation. I think everyone had the right to know the actual state of the president, who was running the country. We are so lucky that nothing worse happened. We're so lucky that Russia didn't make moves beyond Ukraine, or that China didn't make any geopolitical moves beyond what they're already doing as far as trying to expand their economic reach. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And you heard there he was talking about, well, we were subtle about it. His words, we were subtle about it. That indicates to me that there was a strategy going on. They knew they couldn't flat out lie, even though many of them definitely tried to cover it up. But it was intentionally to say, oh, well, we did cover it. We just didn't go pedal to the metal like we could have. Nope. That right there proves that you're actually an activist and not a reporter or a journalist. You're trying to put your thumb on the scale, trying to tilt public opinion one way rather than just giving people the facts. We were being subtle about it? No, that proves that you knew what you were doing. You were fully aware. Give me a break. I know it seems like a moot point by now to criticize the mainstream media. There's this narrative that the right wing has, the right wing has created its own ecosystem. There are podcasts, but it's not as if the mainstream media is dead. There's this narrative that the media is dead, but that's just not true. Sure, their influence may be diminished, but don't underestimate the sway that they unfortunately still have. But as always, all of that is just my analysis and commentary. That is what's going on in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So, how are you feeling about that CPI number, a 0.1% decrease? Have you personally witnessed prices coming down? Specifically, have you noticed your grocery bill looking a little better, even if it's just a few cents? About a month ago, I asked about egg prices. I will say the vast majority of people said egg prices had come down for them, with the exception, I believe, a few people in Chicago and a few people in the Pacific Northwest still saw extremely high prices. I'd be interested to know about that, especially since prices in general. I saw headlines today that apparently egg prices are back up, but gas prices are back down. Like, how are things feeling for you? And let me know, obviously with what you're comfortable with, your location in the country. It doesn't have to be a specific city. I understand privacy, maybe just a region, but would be interested to know how everyone's feeling and how policies are affecting you personally. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.